All right, guys, welcome back to Winter Wolf's Den for episode 9 of Andor. Nobody's listening. No, I'm not talking about my show. I'm talking about the title of the episode. I love the 16 of you guys that are listening out there. I do definitely appreciate it. Likes on the videos, comments on Andor, sub to the channel, look us up on socials. They're out there. They're in the description somewhere, I'm sure. But we're doing episode 9 of Andor. Like I said, dude, I'm going to give us the synopsis right quick if you don't mind, because I think we're going to have some things to say about this episode because stuff is popping off once again. In episode 9, Nobody's Listening, we have Miro torturing Bix for information about Luth and Rael and realizes that Cassian Andor may have been involved in the Aldhani attack, but fails to learn anything about the elusive Axis. The ISB capture a rebel pilot who reveals a power station on Spellhouse is to be raided. Implications later. Mon reunites with Vel, revealed as her cousin, confirming Winterwolf's theory that Vel was a runaway rich girl. And it's nice to be right on these things every now and again. And encourages her to keep a low profile, maintaining the facade of rich and politically uninvolved young woman. Mon and Tay Coloma continue to work covertly, gathering funds for rebel activities. That's her old friend from the private school, so you were right. That's already in progress, further along than I thought. Meanwhile, an older member of Cassian's prison work crew, Ula, has issues on the job, and the description would have just spoiled the whole thing, so I'm not going to say that. The doctor on the prison crew confirms to Cassian and the Andy Serkis character, whose name is Kino, a very disturbing rumor. We'll get into that there. This description's awful, dude. It's giving away the whole thing. Yeah. And I think that's about all I want to say. So it's basically most of the time is spent here between the prison, looking into like the bigger mystery of what's going on with their schedule. We get a lot of good stuff between Bix and Miro during the interrogation process. Very creative, very cool there. And the Mon Mothma and Vel stuff. It's short-lived, but it's kind of cool and kind of, again, reaffirms where people are standing in the universe as it's getting kind of ugly. So, pre-thoughts on the episode. What did you think? And if you want to give me that rundown on write and direct and all that good stuff.
So, we're back with Toby Haynes as the director. He directed the first 3 episodes. Now he's directed 8 and 9. Beau Wiltmore is still the writer for this episode, even though Tony Gilroy is the showrunner and probably the continuity expert of the writing. This episode is good. It ties up a lot of stuff you wonder about, where people come from and what's actually going on, and it starts moving it forward to, I would say this is the first episode of the setup to lead to the payoff, because I would say the last 10 minutes of this episode really pushes everything forward quickly. Mm-hmm. The other thing I like to say about this whole series is you don't have cutbacks to people who aren't important at the time. We're mostly in 3 locations in this whole episode, which are just where we are right now. You don't have a cutback to see, what's this person doing right now? Which you see in a lot of episodes, a lot of series these days, where you have a cutback to a character who doesn't even play for another 5 episods, but somehow you watch them shopping for groceries somehow. Right. This one is staying very focused.
Yeah, to that point, 100%. Like every time they cut away to a different planet or a different location with different characters, it's like you said, it's not somebody doing their laundry or getting groceries. We've returned to their arc that has meaningful impact on what's going to go on in the episode that they're in, as well as setting stages for later. It's nothing is incidental here. Yeah. I would agree with that 100%. So let's get. So my pre-thoughts, I think, are that this was one of my. Dude, I like these kind of episodes because I think the setups are oftentimes a lot more interesting than the actual emotional payoffs when they come. Like the setup before, like the battle episodes are usually really cool. Like old Game of Thrones was like that a lot. Like before anything major popped off, I always like to see where the final arranging of the board was going to be. And I think this episode here, like you said, is the beginning of those pieces being set up, especially with the closing scene. We'll get to that in the prison between Andor and Kino, the Andy Serkis character there. So I also like that this episode is a much darker tone. This might be I think this might be the darkest episode of a Star Wars show, not just this show, anything they've done. by far. And again, Miro is the standout character here. They open on an interrogation sequence here. It's Miro and Bix. Dude, it's her face in every shot is basically shadowed at least on like one half of the side. Not like over dramatic shadow, but she looks gaunt. She looks like she's angry, but reserved and under control and things like that. She has the conversation with Bix where she basically lays it out there. She's like, there's the easy way and the hard way. I have colleagues that think basically everybody we bring in, we should execute or whatever because they're all part of a conspiracy or whichever. But I'm trying to be prudent here. I need you to help me, kind of thing. And it's all very psychologically traumatizing, this conversation that she has with Bix. And I'm going to throw, and we should have looked this up, and I apologize again. I'm going to throw the actress that plays Bix up there with in the same, like I was talking about with the Commandant's wife. Bix in this scene is trembling start to finish, and they haven't started yet.
Yeah.
They're just talking at this point, but she's sweaty, her hair's matted to her face, and the breaths are short and ragged and shit. And Miro's just basically having a field day, letting her know that you're kind of boned unless you help me, and the worst thing you can do here is bore me. And like I was saying pre-show, she has this thing she does where she just kind of leans in with the side of her face, pauses, says something insidious and sinister, and then half smirks. And dude, if your testicles haven't shriveled halfway up your throat when she's talking, you're not watching the show. I find her the coldest character since Hannibal Lecter, 100%. Yeah. What do you like about this scene?
Andrea Arjona.
Thank you. Jonah. She's great, dude. She's great here. That's Bix, guys. That's Bix.
That's Bix.
Yeah. She's great.
Scene is classic interrogation. I don't know if it's this scene or the next time they're talking, but she's running down everything she knows, and every time before Bix should answer, she's already in the radio that you operated the other day.
Yeah. Yeah.
She already knew. And
oh yeah, dude. Yeah.
One of the things when you're going with their interrogations is you got to know stuff that they think you don't know. And then you got to know stuff that they don't even know. And you throw stuff out there and see what they bite on. Because if they start, a police interrogation, you know how many people claim that they murdered someone when they didn't actually do it? And then they're like, I guess that's why you dragged him to the bathroom. Yeah, that's why I dragged him to the bathroom. That's exactly. And it never happened.
Found him in the living room.
You know more than they do. And so it's classic interrogation. You throw stuff out there to see how they react. You want to watch their face. Micro expressions are huge. And you can see, but in this point, she's coming straight from a position of power. You can tell why she's standing, the other one's sitting, and she has to lean in, that tall guy leaning down on somebody.
Just on that note, right? I'm watching the scene now, and basically Miro's so Bix is tied to a chair, she's restrained to a chair, or sitting in a chair.
She's not restrained.
She's not restrained yet. Yep. Right? She's just sitting, but Miro's walking around with her hands behind her back, strolling around, leaning in, talking to her from behind her head where she can't see her. And like you said, she's got answers to questions Bix doesn't even know Bix had for her, and basically just running the show. This is Miro's show, everything in here.
Yep.
And I was saying before, so I just want to get us caught up and on time. It comes down to the classic, there's always that point of the conversation where it's over, where you got the defiant prisoner who's be like, I could tell you some shit, but you're not going to believe me anyway. And she looks all defiant when she says it. Testimony to her fortitude, I'll give her that. But then Miro leans in and just dead eyes her, hawk eyes her. And Bix says, you're not going to believe anything I say. And Miro's just like, no, probably not. It's only a formality that I hurt you at this point. Yep. It's happening.
You can tell me everything, the complete truth right now. You're still going to go through this.
Yeah, you're still cooked. So Miro turns Bix over to Dr. Gorst.
Yep, Dr. Gorst.
Who has a couple of his goons come in. They restrain Bix finally. And I think it was this point where he's like, oh no, the restraints are actually here to help you.
No, that's later when they cut back to
Is that all right, my bad.
Start the strapping down. And
when we get there,
his table into position.
It's kind of messed up, and it's classic like interrogation stuff, like you said in the genre. But it's like it's effective. It's terrifying when they do it. All right, we're back on Narkina 5. The team is plugging away, making their widgets. Could be vacuum cleaners, could be atomic bombs. No idea, not
Still
important.
don't know at this point.
But this is where we get a whole lot of like accelerated world building for like the situation they're in. Andor is kind of like rah-rahing the team. If we push through, we can take table 3 or whatever. Table 4 is down. But two interesting things come up here. Is Olaf, the older gentleman, is definitely, he's a hurting unit now. His face is strained. He's looking all clammy all the time. He's always massaging the wrists and the joints kind of thing. But the team's still with him. And again, nobody's turned their backs on him. Mm-hmm. No one's abusing him. Because they need him. Like whatever he can do right now, he's still not getting in the way. Being productive on the team. And we haven't been led to believe that they've lost anything since last we were here. Like they haven't lost any shifts. They haven't been fried.
Yeah.
Like they haven't ended up in the loser circle. I'm trying to move us forward here. Andor does this little switch where he bumps Olaf out of the way for one of the other guys before Andy Serkis comes over. And this is where we hear that older guy Olaf is the short timer, they call him. He's only got 40 or 41 shifts left, something like
left,
yeah. It's low. It's the lowest by a lot, we're led to believe, right? And Andy Serkis Kino, he's basically, dude, you're the shortest of the short. All right, let's do this. You'll be out of here in no time, and yada yada. And then he asks Andor, was this swap of personnel, was this your idea? And Andor pins it kind of on one of the other guys, but it's like it's accepted as a good move, so it's kind of like he's passing credit around a little bit. He's ingratiating himself still.
He's also, you gotta think, he's working under an alias. He doesn't want to draw too much attention to who he is.
Right. Yeah, because he's some weirdo name that he said on the way in, like Grief something or other. I don't know, it's something
Keith.
stupid. Keith, Grief was Apollo Creed from Mandalorian. That's our Grief Karga. So Andor's still looking around. He's still working on his parts and doing this. I think this is where he takes. Is this where he takes his little bathroom break? No, it's not.
No.
Sorry, we're gonna hold off on that. Next scene is back to the restraints on Bix, and this is where the doctor lays out this chilling ass torture methodology, right? With the
with zero
we recorded.
emotion.
We dude. Because he's Hannibal. Dude, everybody in the ISB is Hannibal fucking Lecter, dude. Like, his pulse never gets above 40. Believe that shit. Even when he's doing this shit.
He always sounds jovial as he's explaining what they think.
Oh, dude, like, he's excited. He's like, oh, my God, this is the greatest thing ever. So run us through this scene, through the technical merits of what's going on with the torture device and, like, what it all entails and shit like that. And, again, guys, this is completely safe for work stuff. There's nothing graphic that happens here.
Nope.
Like, when they get her hooked up to the thing, and I'll just call it the thing because whatever, the helmet or whatever, like there's no cutting here. This isn't like Hostel, you know what I mean? This isn't like what is it, Eli Roth? It's not an Eli Roth film.
Yeah, he
run me through.
The restraints are pretty much for your safety.
Right.
He's like, we're not going to do anything physical. And he was like, we want to build this ship base over on this planet, and some of the local inhabitants were too keen on it, and by not too keen on it, they disrupted things. So we took it to extreme and we exterminated them. But they used to
all of them
these calls, and we found out that the people who went in to exterminate them were like curled up in a ball, hidden under a bulkhead somewhere. And so we recorded it, and then we fine-tuned it, and now we're going to test it out on you.
Dude, the sick part of that, if you take it away, is that he specifically points out that, like, when they recorded the extermination mission of, like, the inhabitants, right, and heard those, like, distress calls as their death rattles as they died, right?
Yeah.
He specifically says, we've tuned it down to the parts that we're pretty sure are just the children.
Yeah.
That's the most effed up thing I think I've ever heard in a Star Wars anything. Is basically what you'll be listening to for your torture is psychological warfare grade sounds of children crying in agony.
Yeah.
If there was a better torture method, I'm unaware of it. Like, I'm pretty sure that would work.
He's like, we use different sounds to see, and like we've toned it down so people aren't dying or becoming catatonic. It's just to the level where you don't want to listen to this for too long.
And he's like, basically shake your head if you can't take it and you want to talk now. Yeah. So they basically they throw this, like, it's like headphone, all intents and purposes. I guess it's headphones, really. Yeah, maybe VR stuff. I don't know. Yeah. So basically the only thing she can hear is that, right? And it looks horrible. Miro comes back in. She basically says, repeat listenings will cause permanent damage. So you might want to get your shit together and cooperate as quick as you can. And basically, like, the scene cuts out, like I was saying, like, it's not gory. Like, they turn it on, like, it's activated, and they go right into a close-up of Bix's face from, like, the nose to her brow, and she is, like, completely contorted and screaming. Like, it's bad. You don't hear what's going on. It's what you don't see or what you don't hear is scarier. Jaws style.
All you can
know
see
what I mean?
is her reaction to it.
Right.
And at first, she's trying to be defiant, but as she listens,
and then
you
she
just
cracks.
see it
It cracks.
melt on her face.
Yeah, 100%. So we slip away here. We're back in the prison section again. It looks like they're kind of they're just going about their business. Nothing's going on. Andor takes, I guess, so they must have a Q shift bathroom break allowed, because he just kind of walks off the line in the middle of production, heads down to the bathroom. One of the other inmates kind of notices he's going down there, and for a quick second you think, okay, so finally we're going to get some inter-table, inter-gang warfare kind of stuff, but that's not what happens, as we see out later. Like, it's an ally that Andor's made, and they don't name the character yet, which I kind of hate when they do that. But Andor heads into the bathroom, taps a wall panel. They've fashioned a file or saw out of something that they got their hands on, because it looks pretty makeshift. It's not like a real tool. And he's starting to cut a pipe inside the panel. Any ideas what's going on here? Because, like, was it a power cable that they think is inside the pipe, or like, because nothing comes out of this yet. Yeah, I thought that was kind of odd.
Out what he's doing. I think it's just to, as I said, establish, set up. They're setting up something that has to do with that pipe on what they're thinking on how to escape. You can tell because when they announced that they're bringing someone down, because it's a new prisoner day, as they were talked about earlier. Yep.
Right, because they mentioned they're down short, but they won't be short all day on table 3 or whatever. That's why they were going to push. Just they take the lead. So basically, the guy on the voice announcer is like, we got somebody else coming in and everybody on program, which is the command for them to stand still, hands up, and everything. So he's got to, like, put the thing away, put the panel up, and, like, run back down to the table real quick. But instead of running to the table, he runs and he talks to the dude that was eyeballing him going to the bathroom. And it's very clear here that they're kind of assessing what the procedure is for the lift that comes down, because we didn't tell them before. The workstations that they're at, guys, are all, like, on a depressed factory floor. And the guards on the walkways are probably, call it 20 feet up, or like nothing you could jump and grab and then pull yourself up or anything like that. Like it requires a small lift to get personnel up and down from. So they're basically, Andor and the other dude are kind of like, they're standing there, they're just watching, but they're taking note of a couple of really interesting details. What do you remember about that part?
2 guards, 2 weapons.
Yep.
They also said, he's like, I told you, the lift isn't electrocuted. Anything that moves is not electrocuted.
Can't fry
He's
you.
touching the rail, and he was fine on it.
I think they also mentioned that whatever guard brought him in didn't have boots. I think that's one of the things they point out when they were talking about that the lifts can't fry you. Yeah. And they're putting together the beginnings of, like, an attack plan, because it was like, this is when we do it. We're going to catch them on the lifts. And the other guy's like, how? And Andor's like, well, we're going to we'll shut it down halfway. That way it can't can't bring him back up. We'll take 1 guard, 1 weapon, and go from there. So they're starting to put together the plan, which is kind of cool. I love seeing how they start to come up with these kind of things, which is kind of cool. And then basically they wrap up on Kino giving, like, the 49 men in this room answer to me speech that he gave Andor like a month ago. Kind of cool. And again, it's Andy Serkis being Andy Serkis, and he's fucking badass in that role.
He is really good at what he does.
Yep, dude, fucking he's amazing. We run back over to Bix real quick. She's reeling from the torture. She's, like, glassy-eyed and breathing heavy and kind of, like, muscle flopping all around. Miro's got her by the face, like, with her hand, being, like, re-asking the questions and everything else, just, like, really laying into her. And it's like, Bix is probably boned at this point. Like, she's in some shit. But again, dude, is Miro the best Star Wars villain that we've seen in, like, a hot minute? I mean, dude, who are you more afraid of, Kylo Ren or fucking Daedra Miro? I mean, probably Miro. I'm sorry. Force powers being what they are. Dude, fucking emo Ren. Mm-hmm. Yeah, dude, I mean, I don't know. Dude, this chick, dude, she's better written than him as a villain. Yeah. 100%. I mean, emo Ren was like a 32-year-old dude with mommy issues, 15 years after moving out the house. Yeah. So, I mean, we don't know anything about Miro's background, but she as she is more compelling than emo Ren with 3 movies of backstory. So, I don't know, that's just me. Sidebar aside. that's just a quick bit with Miro. And did you want anything in there for you? It's just she's just re-asking the questions. Bix doesn't say anything.
Okay, so it just pretty much just shows the aftermath on this one. This is where she comes out and starts talking to the guy, like hang the other guy, but keep her alive because she's the only one who's seen access in person. That's
two scenes up. I just got on the timeline here because we're back to Andor on the prison block. They're still working through the machines. This is where Olaf. It's kind of like. We know mentally he's declining here because there's a scene here where like he's asking, but he seems energetic. He's like, we're in the game. Like, what's the score? Where are we at? And the guys are all like, bro, we just told you like all this shit like 10 minutes ago.
2 minutes ago.
Like he's like 2 minutes. Right. It wasn't even 10. It was 2. You're right. It's on the subtitle. And you know that like there's a mental decline here now that isn't just like, arthritis and like, he can't keep up. Like he's starting to decompensate and it's not going to go good. And my freeze frame here is like, it's 3 of the guys that are around the table, just like they're looking at him like eyebrows raised, like, dude, we just told you this. Like now they're concerned.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like this is not good.
Through, and then they end the shift. And then that's when the other table gets electrocuted.
Yeah. Oh, right. We were talking about that before. What I like about Olaf in this part, though, is he actually gets a little indignant, and she's like, "What, do you think I don't want to win? Like, no, come on, let's do this shit." Like, he's trying to gear up. He's trying to rally. So I think we work through that. We don't get the other table losing yet. We come back to the scene you just mentioned where, like, they're throwing Bix on the mattress on the floor. The instructions are keep her here, keep her alive. She's not a hostage. She's a witness. This other psycho that works for the ISB is like, what about Pac, the scrapyard owner? Mm-hmm. So, I'd like to hang him to make an example. And she just doesn't give a shit. She's like, she's putting on her coat and tying the waistband like she's off to dinner and drinks or some shit after like a 9 to 5.
You run the sector now.
Dude, zero fucks given. And again, dude, it's probably like if I'm looking at the timeline, dude, the scene's maybe 20, 25 seconds. But again, like to badger and beat the dead horse, because that's what we're going to do here when we see good shit. This is how you do character development. We already know she's a vindictive evil biatch. Like, we know that. But this is just further demonstrating that, like, she just did, like, her 8-hour shift torturing somebody, and interrogating for info. And she's just going to put on her ISB cap and her little white Nazi trench coat thing and tie the thing and then go to the youth Nazi ball or some shit. Like, she's not letting up. There's not going to be a scene here where she goes home to the orphan daughter we didn't know she had, or bake a bunch of brownies and bring them to an orphanage. Like, no one's going to make her sympathetic here. This is not a sympathetic villain. Not a chance. I don't think they're going to underwrite her that way.
And we're
terrible waste if they do.
In a couple scenes where they try. And
yep. Good point.
Even shoots
Great point. We'll get to that because I know exactly what you're talking about. So we get out of this scene here. We get Mon Mothma in the Senate. She's doing Mon Mothma stuff, which I like, where she's like imploring the other delegates and senators, like, dude, we probably should kind of check and balance this whole imperial overreach thing. It's like what did she say? It's like it's one more step on a predetermined march to fascism. And I'm like, dude, who wrote this? Because that's exactly what this is. Where we're like tripling sentences for people that are already locked up and shit. Like, no.
Yeah.
No, what is going on here? But like the scene ends, it's like she's talking and you can see the lights on the other pods going out. And at first I was like, dude, right. Because at first I thought, because remember in like the earlier episodes when the lights were going out, it's because people were leaving to go look at the news for the Aldani attack. So I thought something else popped off behind the scenes. And I'm like, then it dawned on me. It's like your lights are on and the way you abstain from the fucking vote, or you vote no, or no confidence or no support, is you basically just shut them down.
Yeah.
And like, but we hear like several clicks and people are like calling in like, long live the empire and some other shit. There's a little bit of back and forth. Exactly. Like I think some people are either way. Right. She's right.
And
Right. But dude, so she hits the nail on the head with like, this power needs to be restrained. Like the Senate building is like a temple to who remembers what that felt like. And like she's politician for the people 100%. Like, and this is the character I like. Again, she's written with nuance, with subtlety, complexity. She's not down there banging her fist on the gavel. She's not sending goons around to like secure votes. She's not challenging somebody else to mortal combat to see who wins the vote. It's not that. And this is how you write effing female characters, dude. Like, she's to be respected. People forget, dude, when we get on these rants about, like, you know, you guys don't like strong female characters, and it's only new that we had, you know, new female leads in remakes of things now that, you know, redress the balance. Like, bro, who was the leader of the rebellion cause in, like, 1980 when this shit came out? It was fucking Mon Mothma. And nobody cared. You know what I mean? Nobody was upset when she made her appearance in Jedi, because I think she made her first appearance in Jedi, right? When the plans in the battle station and shit.
New Hope.
Because she wasn't at that first. Where was she in New Hope? She's not the guy that gave the. She's not the character that did the.
She was
the Death Star briefing.
There. She was standing.
Was she?
There.
Oh, dude, I don't remember that. Oh, dude, I must be just jogging my memory, because I remember the dude with the bushy beard was the one to be like, "We're going to use proton torpedoes," like that whole guy that did the speech. So I would have to go back there. But again, she was there, and in episode 6, everybody knew she was in charge. Nobody gave a shit. You know, so she's here being like senior senator from like Chandrilla or Coruscant or whoever she actually represents.
She was
and like she has support.
She's the one who put the medals on.
Oh, she's the medals. Yes. But they didn't. That was all dialogue free. So I mean, if you didn't know that, after the fact, is like, you know, you wouldn't have known. But no, she's basically trying to like drum up support to like stand against the Empire and shit. And it's like it's a mixed bag, like you said. You know, and she's starting to crack a little bit, because when she gets in the limo and the door closes, like, dude, she's looking dejected.
Yep.
In that shot, and then she gets
the
dude, carry it.
Organization that she believed in, of the Galactic Senate, you know, being important as it is, she's witnessing it die. And that
100%.
would hit anyone hard.
Yep. Because I mean, she's grown. Like, this isn't her first rodeo in like Senate session. You know what I mean? She's probably had some political wins and losses, but like this one's for all the marbles. This isn't like renegotiating like a trade route or some shit. Like, this is a big deal. You know what I mean? This is like freedom-ending shit that she knows is coming. So she jumps in the limo, and the guy that she thinks is probably an ISB spy, haven't really addressed this issue yet, mentions that your cousin has arrived. Would you like to go to the embassy? And they haven't done the reveal yet of who that is, and we don't get that yet, because we jump right back to Narkina 5. Mm-hmm. And this is where I think the plot starts to thicken there. The guys are in transit back to their block after a shift. But the conveyors stop. They're locked into the transport tunnels, things like that, and people start getting nervous. And one of the guys is hand signaling down the other row, so they communicate through nonverbal. That way they can talk level to level, kind of thing. And rumors start to come out that maybe some people got fried permanently, and nobody knows why. Yeah,
and they're saying like level 2. And then you find out how big the place really is. Because he's like, it takes 5 days to get a word up from down there up here. So, you know, it's just rumors. Because I think we cut a scene where he's talking to him in the prison cell, in the prison block?
No. That's later when Serkis goes to bed on him and doesn't want to answer any of his questions. That's later.
Yeah. Okay.
That's later. That's not here. This jumps right from the limousine with Mon Mothma to their waiting line. The power flickers, and then that ramps the tension up even more, because they're like, oh, you know, maybe they're just doing a count. And like another guy's like, well, why the fuck would they cut the power to do that? And you're like, oh shit, dude, no, this is like there's probably like a lockdown situation going on. They're gonna fry us any second, and a couple of people start to get a little uppity. But then, you know, Kino's like, you know, put that shit away. We don't know what's going on. Anything's just a rumor. You know, we don't know. But Andor in this scene here too is doing information gathering shit, and he's kind of like working back and forth with actually that happens a little bit later. No, it happens here, where he's like him and Serkis are trying to work together almost at this point, where like they used to be like this, but they're starting to come a little bit closer to being on the same page. It's been like a gradual kind of process where like Andor's chill, he's not rabble rousing and shit like that, but he's maintaining on program, he's putting his hands up and shit like that. But he starts to notice that Serkis is starting to lose it a little bit. I think that starts now, but I think it gets more big time later. Mm-hmm. So that comes up a little bit later. So the power goes back on. These guys file back out to their blocks, but everybody looks uneasy. A couple of the guys in line, they're doing the fear thing with like the fucking trembling lips and shit. Like this is not a good spot to be in, even on a good day. It's not a good spot now. So next jump here, we're back with Mon Mothma at the embassy. And she meets cousin Vel, who once again, when she is cleaned up, is the best looking blonde in Star Wars history, because holy hell is she a good looking girl. But this is another good scene because it brings two people that are involved in the rebellion, puts them in the same place, and lets you see differences in what their how strong their convictions might be. I guess is a good way to put that. So give me some info on this scene here, a little back and forth between the two.
So you see some more discontent of the daughter and Mon Mothma, because she's like, "Oh, it's a beautiful dress." She was like, something about her dad, and she's like, "My dad will let me do anything.
Dad let me wear it."
Like, and he's like, "Why don't you go try it on?"
Yeah. And the minute she leaves,
it's back to two rebels talking, and it's like,
no doubt,
"Did he send you?" And she's like, "Who?
Who?
Like we're not talking about this."
The look in her eyes when she says that is absolutely stone cold. Good shit. Good shit. And this is basically where they get into their talk about, what does he have you doing out there? And she says who, and they just kind of like exchange some looks. And then like before they can get deep into the conversation, the daughter comes back in and does a little do-si-do with the dress she put on. And, she's very pretty and yay, girly girl. And the scene kind of dips right there.
Yeah.
But this is the scene coming up here. We're back on the prison block. It looks like their team is won because they're eating real food off the plate. Yep. Looks like they're actually eating some solids. One of the guys like eating it up as they pan in. And this is Andor is trying to pump Kino for some info. He's asking about like guard strength or patrol time. I think it's guard strength, not patrol times. And Kino's like, bro, I got like 230 days left or whatever. Like, dude, keep flapping your mouth and you're going to smack the shit out of you or whatever.
He's like, oh, you think they're listening to us?
Right. He's like, what do you mean they're listening? He's like, they don't have to. Like they don't care.
Listening.
That's how it ends, right?
Yeah.
But Andor says a couple of good things that kind of come up on the way, where he's like, they don't need to care because we're cheaper to replace than droids or some shit.
Yeah.
And I'm like, dude, he's right, dude. Human slave labor would be the way to go in this situation for like bulk assembly line work. Why have a billion credit assembly line if you got all these political prisoners and like street thug kind of like street crime level guys that you could just do it indefinitely for? Who's going to stop you? Yep. Like that's the scumbaggy shit that the Empire's involved with. Basically, Serkis shuts him down, puts his plate up, shuts off his overhead light, and racks up and goes to bed. And that's where Andor's like, I'll prove it to you. Nobody's listening. Arr! Nothing happens.
He's like, do you think they're listening to us?
Yep.
He's like, how many guard strength? You think they're listening to us? Nobody's
and
listening.
And then he shuts the light off. Yeah. No, you know what this scene reminded me of? I don't know if you've ever seen it or if you've ever read it. Did you ever see the Jim Caviezel version of Count of Monte Cristo? Way back in the day. This was probably like 2000.
Probably not.
Oh, dude, kind of cheesy. It was a over the top 90s 2000 version of like Count of Monte Cristo, but it's basically if you're not familiar with it, it's a prison break where basically some guy wrongly accused and everything yada locked up, but the guy that teaches him how to tunnel out and to like be a count to stand in to get his revenge and everything. The first lesson he teaches them when he teaches them how to read, he had scratched on the wall the phrase, "And so neglect becomes our ally." And dude, the minute Andor's talking about nobody's listening, I'm like, dude, that's the Count of Monte Cristo. That's exactly what it is. It's like they got put in solitary for like their lifetime sentence, and the only time the guards ever came around was the same time every day to feed them in the morning and to collect a slop bucket, and on their birthday to be beaten because that was like their gift, as they got beaten every year on their birthday. So as long as you were in your hole every day, you could learn to read, you could work out, you could learn to fence, you could learn all these things because nobody's listening. So I just thought that it was just nifty that it kind of tied back. It probably wasn't intentional, but it just reminded me of that. I was like, that's cool. Good shit reminds me of other good shit, So Andor's pissed at this point because he's recruited some support like we saw with the other inmate that was kind of watching the guards come down the lifts, which was cool. I didn't need to see all those scenes over a month of how that happened. It's like, okay, there's other people that probably want to bust out. This makes sense. But we can see his building frustration that Kino, who's been there longer than he has and has some influence, I mean, maybe a little, I don't know, has a little influence, but he's completely bought into like, dude, I'm just going to do my time, get my ass on a transport, heading home, seeing the girls, whatever. But like, no, like the scene ends and Andor's pissed that this dude stonewalled him and went to bed. He was kind of annoyed there. So I think coming up next, is, where are we at here? Okay, I think we're on boardroom scene here. This is where Miro is 100%, almost like she's running the meeting. She's taking questions from her bosses, but she's like she's articulating well the Axis theory is, it's the best thing we have. We think he made a mistake. We think we have a possible match on Andor here. Her boss Patagar kind of says, you're trying to connect this to Aldhani. That's a bit of a stretch, but then her assistant bails her out, and makes a kind of it's like it's something to go on. It's not a dead on nails lead. And if you remember, it's a junior assistant jumps up with the iPad, and he's basically just says he's clean shaven. And at first you're kind of groaning. I was groaning, and I was like, oh, this motherfucker's speaking out of turn, just going to cook her whole case. But what he said made sense.
Yeah.
And it made sense because when they interrogated the personnel at Aldhani, they were like, oh, everybody, this dude matches the description. He was clean shaven here. We showed him the hologram image. It looked the same. When we interrogated Bix, one of the things she said was, I don't know, he shaved his beard for whatever, like within context of, what he looked like or something, that he had changed his appearance. So it all kind of made sense. What did you think about this scene? I'm telling you, I love the ISB stuff. I don't care that they're not shooting at each other. It works for me.
Yeah, this is also another part where her supervisor steps up in her behalf and defends her again.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And then, what does this do? Like 7 for 7 now with defending her? And
then you hear the boss guy even start taking it. He started asking the same type of questions. Remember earlier when she won Fairlats, he was like, thesis? It was kind of the same,
that was the best.
Kind of the same lines there, like, okay, why are you saying this now?
Yeah.
He's like, now you got my attention, now convince me.
Yeah, this is where we really see Miro shine with her thought process and how she's working through things, where it's like, she points out that Marva, his adoptive mother, whatever the relationship is there, is basically she's still there. Maybe they're communicating. We need to look more into that. And he basically said, "Why haven't you brought her in?" And she's like, "Well, she's our bait. I mean, we brought in Bix, we brought in Pac. We'll just leave her out there. That way, if they are communicating, we can espionage in and see what kind of fruit we can get out of that." Well, where's she gonna go? Right? She's already told she's not going anywhere anyway by choice. But I like it because it's like you said. She's increased the amount that she's spoken through all these meetings, but none of it's any kind of rant or diatribe. It's it's on task. It's it's germane to what they're doing with the investigation. We see their process unfolding.
Yeah. And
I like that kind of stuff. It's meticulous. It works. But I don't find that kind of stuff slow. I'll say this though. We haven't seen Blevin in 3 episodes now, I think. Maybe only the last 2. I think it's 3. And I hope soon, maybe this could be Winter Wolf prediction for episode whatever, I'll just make it now. One of the last things Patagar said to her, if you remember, was, that was pretty good in there. Watch your back. Right. So I hope there is some kind of, she's walking home and somebody makes the move and she fights him off a little bit. And then, maybe Karn rolls in and blasts her attacker. I don't know. And it's revealed as Blevin or one of Blevin's guys. I'd like to see more of that because I think the ISB, as much as I like it, it's at its best while she's being great at her job, but also while there is some competition in the room. If they all just bend over backwards for her now it does get a little bit into Mary Sueism. She's earned the spot, but earning the spot doesn't mean that there's not new conflicts to overcome. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I hope they do something with Blevin. We're back on Narkina 5. The guys are in transit. It looks like the rumor is definitely getting around more. A lot more no-name characters are asking, "Hey, did you find out?" And other people are talking back, "Oh yeah, they were fried out. What's going on? They're all dead. They're all gone." Dude, walk me through this scene, bro.
Yeah,
I've been dominating the talk wave.
The whole section, the whole level 2 was wiped out.
Yeah.
And this is when Kino was like,
Kino.
yeah, Kino was like, it takes 5 weeks for a word to come up. How do you know what they're saying is right? And then he gets help from the other pit boss that's in there with him.
Right.
Yeah.
Dinska, I think is the name, or Minska, something like that. Yep.
Yeah. To get these people to shut up. Let's keep them in line.
Dude, there's a key line of dialogue that comes out of this too, right before the like when they get locked into the transport tunnel again, when it buzzes before they go out. The last thing Kino says is, until we know, we keep our, he says something, we keep our heads down. And then the subtitle is softly, because it's under his breath, he goes, until we know what's going on. So he's coming around. This is the beginning of him starting to come around to like, all right, wait a minute. Like, it might be some gangster shit going on here, but I'm not in yet.
He does have a temper, because he punches Andor in the stomach because of something he said as well.
Was that here? Was that at this part?
I could have swore it's in this one.
Oh, yeah, no, he didn't punch Andor. He punched the guy next to him.
Oh, okay.
I'm looking at it.
From when I was watching it.
Yeah. Oh, dude, because Andor's right next to him. But he's the one that kind of throws the hand on Kino's stomach to kind of push him off a little bit and be like, hey, the less they think we know, the better. Like, you pull it together.
Yeah.
And then right after that is, yes, when he's back on program, he's like, we keep our heads down until we know what's going on. So like, this is them getting on a level. This is what I was talking about earlier. But again, it's good because the freeze frame here is so clutch. Andor's like a half a foot away from him, like nose to nose, right? And he's got this look like, dude, you need to listen to me. But he's not like glaring daggers at him. He doesn't have him by the shirt or anything like that. But the look on Serkis's face, because he's a fucking professional, is like, dude, his eyebrows are up. He's looking concerned. He's like, dude, fucking everything I thought. Like, I thought if I played the game, I was going home. That's all starting to fall apart for him. And this dude conveys it. And the best part of this shit is the shots in fucking profile from like most of it. So you only get to see half of his face doing that shit before he turns around. And then he's just got this like wide-eyed look where he's like, we keep our heads down until we know. But then his face just like settles into like stone when he says under his breath, until we know what's going on. Dude, he's the man. Dude, he's absolutely the man. He's one of the best on the show. He's only been here for 15 effing seconds. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So we're going to move it forward here. And of course, the show comes to a dragging halt for me, dude. I don't even want to effing talk about this scene. You know I hate this. I hate this. I don't know why, with the passion of 1,000 dying suns. I know it's not awful. But I just fucking hate it, dude. Please, you do all the talking for Karn and Mommy, please. I can't do it. I take a water break while you're talking about it. I hate it so much. So, I know that was a bit overblown. I apologize.
What you do see here is that you see him back home. He's eating a meal with his mom. His mom's being the typical mom that she's been throughout the series.
God.
But this time he seems a little bit more confident. He's like, you've been going through my stuff. He's like, I call it cleaning. He's like, you've been through my private box. And then she tries to go with that whole hurt mother, Jewish guilt type thing. We've all been through, or Catholic guilt. There's tons.
Catholic guilt. It's mama guilt. That's what it is, man. We all have that shit. 100%.
Like,
because here's the line right here. It's like, what if I'd let you? What if I'd let your neglect drive me insane? Who would have picked up your pieces now? Dude, keep going, man. I can't interject again. I hate him.
You look like she's like, you like you a little dressed up. He's like, I am, type thing, and they just keep going. Their normal back and forth banter, but he's getting his shots in now instead of just taking it like he did when he first got there.
Yeah. Well, he also points out, and isn't this the part where he points out that he's gotten a promotion, and that's why he's sitting there with the upscale clothing in their version of like the necktie and shit like that. Yeah, and she does the doting mom thing and comes over and kisses him on the head and pours him more cereal and blue milk kind of thing. Yeah. And then she just kind of skadoodles off, and I'm like, dude, Norman Bates her, please. It has to happen in episode 10. It just must. Like, sooner or later, he's going to have to crack under the pressure or something. So thankfully, it's not a long scene. It kind of gets his point across. We're back on the workroom floor. The team's trying to put shit together. Olaf's slowing down big time. Like, he falls out of step when they're transitioning, like, the rig they're assembling off the table or onto the table, and has to, like, run around last second. But, like, he's basically not participating at this point in the build. And, like, Andor's starting to step in for him a little bit more.
Yeah.
I don't think anything goes on there.
There's a health issue at this point.
Yeah, because he's slowing down like leaps and volumes beyond. Like, he's not just massaging the arthritis. Like, he looks out of place. Like, it takes him several seconds to catch up to the next thing to do on like several steps that they're going through. So, but that was a quick one there. Next scene up, we're at the Mon Mothma residence. Auntie Vel is over for dinner. She's kind of talking with Dickbag husband, who's probably my least favorite character on the show, maybe even more so than Mom. Karn's mom just because he's such a jackass. He basically hits her with some patriarchy talk a little bit where he's like, oh, did you find a husband while you were out there? I don't know if that was a veiled dig at her being gay. I don't think it was. I think it was just more like, well, you're supposed to be settled down. I don't think it was necessarily like an orientation jab. Maybe it was. I didn't read it that way, but who am I to say?
You're probably going to have to find a widow at this point as you waited so long.
He basically says, like, at your age, a widower is probably all you're going to get anyway, or all you're worth, kind of thing.
Yeah.
But she plays him well. She kind of gives him the high society retort, kind of plays it off, and Mon Mothma smiles at her like, oh, okay, you can play the etiquette game at the table, kind of thing. So that was pretty cool. Nifty little development. We do get a little shot here, though, where they mention that Tay Coloma, the finance banker kind of thing, has recently been in touch, and I think the daughter's the one that says it's mother's old boyfriend. Or I don't remember if Vel said. One of them says it, though, and then she's like, she accuses the husband of being the one that said that, and then she's like, it's old history. There's some suspicion going on there.
Yeah, we were school friends.
Yeah. I like that. It was kind of like a triangle between the three of them of throwing out, like, was Mon Mothma involved with this guy at some point, kind of thing. And anything that makes the husband uncomfortable, I'm down for, because I just don't like him. Like, I hate that guy. I'd punch him right in the fucking mouth. I really don't like him. So Vel takes off. She's walking out back to the limo with Mon Mothma.
Yeah,
this is where she gives
the comment, you only stay for one day. She's like, yep.
Yeah. Yep, gotta go, gotta move on, got shit to do. This is also where Mon Mothma says, play the role of spoiled rich girl. I mean, just keep your head down. You know what I mean? Like, you don't have to, like, we know there's risks. But Mon Mothma has, like, the crisis of conscience here a little bit. And she says, you know, what have we done, Vel? And Vel, right away, without hesitation, goes, we pick sides. Like, we've picked sides. We're going to live lives that mean something, that are, you know, in service of people, or whatever it is she says there. And I thought it was good. I thought it was a good exchange, because she's reinforcing to Mon Mothma the same things that Cinta was kind of reinforcing to her. They're like, no, somebody needs to do something. The Emperor can't be unchecked. It can't happen. You know, and they had a little discussion of risk, I think, things like that. It was, she says, we're fighting, I'm watching it now, we're fighting against the dark. We're making something of our lives. I don't know. It's pretty straightforward in this one. Thoughts, dislikes, likes?
It's pretty much each step you see Mon Mothma getting closer to the rebellion leader she becomes.
Right.
She goes from, oh, it's fun and it's like in vogue to be against the Empire, to, no, we're going full on. We need to stop this. People's lives are in danger. And we catch her about halfway in between it, where we've catch her at the point where she makes a decision, and that's where she's with Rael at the end, where he has his back turned and the doors closed and the driver's outside, where he's like, this is either you're in or you're not.
Or he says surrender or get it over with.
Yeah, is what
he says when they're in the shop. Yeah, I like that they. You know, one of the things we talk about in writing a lot is kind of like you start the story like 10 minutes late. You know, like you start it like in media res, like in motion kind of thing. And I like that the show got underway where she was already in. She was already working with Rael. She was already part of the financing and the money moving and things like that. And we didn't spend 6 episodes of, you know, like Rael, you know, tailing her through the Senate and working through cat's paws to get her attention and to get a meeting, and to like basically like how they accomplished her meeting her old friend from school, where it's like it was an intro scene where she brought him in and kind of tricked him a little bit into mentioning his politics first, and then she was like, bro, I got a story to tell. You know what I mean? Like, I didn't need to see 6 episodes of Rael trying to work her to convince her to be in. It's like they started in the middle, or not in the middle, but in action. Like they started somewhere that was already interesting, and I appreciate that. As far as the story goes, here's a question though, with regards to Mon Mothma kind of getting closer to taking on the reins of rebellion stuff. Do we have a suspicion that maybe by the end of season 1, maybe Rael's dead and she's taking over, or even if Rael's not dead, like does the Empire, do they kill her families? Like, do you think there's going to be a pivotal thing that's going to bring her to the rebellion the same way I'm expecting like Marvra to die or Bix to die, that sells Andor on it? Because it's not the incarceration that's going to make Andor want to fight the Empire. He's just going to want to bail, get his money, and run. Yeah. Like, what do we think is going to happen with Mon Mothma that's going to like push her right into rebellion status like that? If anything, I mean, maybe it doesn't.
I believe we talked a little bit about this before. I think way after episode 2, it's going to be her husband. who's drawn to.
Oh, you think he's in a brown shirt or? Yeah. Okay. So I think as we've watched more of the show, I think the husband's probably going to do something like that, but I think there's going to be death somewhere, and I'm not sure it'll be the daughter. It might be Vel. Maybe that might have been the point of this whole scene here, was to put them in the same place so they could have some talk time to kind of put their bond on screen. That way, if something happens to Vel in like episode 11 or something, that kind of convinces Mon Mothma to take the next aggressive step. Maybe, who knows? I was just curious what you thought about that, because it seems like everybody's kind of on path.
Yeah, I do believe that Rael is going to pass away, and she's going to have to step into that role. But
okay.
I don't believe it's going to be her tipping point. Either it's going to be a loved one, or she's going to just have to be on the run because they're after her.
Oh, yeah, that's an interesting alternative. Good call. All right, we're back on Ferrix right after that. After Mon Mothma says goodbye to Bix, she's going to go on vacation. We're back on Bix. It's a really quick scene. I think it's just her looking busted up in the prison cell. They kind of just come in and do like a slow pan over, but I don't think anything happens. Yeah, she's just looking beat, like tired and whatnot. Here's the scene you were talking about a little while ago, and this is a good one here. It's kind of, daybreak on Coruscant or wherever they are. They're at ISB headquarters. Cyril Karn's just kind of bumming around outside, just walking around. Tell me what happens.
So he's doing his little best Jimmy Stewart, hanging out to run into the person who changed his life. And there she appears in her white uniform. And he comes up and she's like, "What are you doing? Are you stalking me?" And he's like, "I had to see you again." He's like, "I hear that because of you, I got my promotion." He's like, "Well, you were in good service to the Empire." He's like, "The last time we talked," he's like, "it wasn't a talk, it was an interrogation."
Right.
He's like, "You gave me a reason to live again." And he's like, "I'm out here about 2 or 3 times a week, hoping I'll see you again." Yeah. And then he starts like reading this poem to her. And she's like, "Dude, if I ever see you again, I will put you in prison." And
there's a cage in the outer rim. Dude, yep, go ahead. Keep going. Yeah.
He grabs her, and she turns. She's like, "I can have you hung for that." And he's like, "Don't ever come back here again." She's like, "If I ever see you again, it will not be good for you." So here's her redeeming moment where you could have had a romantic interlude with Mr. And she's like, "No, it's all about the business."
Yeah. Dude, him waxing poetic was the cringiest thing I've ever seen. But I know he had to say that because this dude is psychologically broken. Like, that wasn't supposed to be funny. It's because he's crazy. Because it's not a rant. It's not a title. It's like you said. It's poetic rambling where he's like, "I knew after I met you and being in your presence that there was like beauty and light in the universe and that life was worth living and this and blah 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 blah." Dude, this chick is not having any of it. Dude, not word fucking one. And when she squares up on him and like he's got this doting idiot schoolboy look, like she ices him with like the same look she used on Bix in like the interrogation style. And I was like, "Bro, I don't think you scored a love connection here. It might just be time to pack it in." Yeah. Dude, it was brutal. But the more I think about this scene now, and we were talking about like the watch your back ISB stuff. We know he's stalking her around here. If Blevin tries some shit around premises or on the way to her home, this dude's probably going to be around and he's probably going to do some shit.
Yeah.
I mean, we know he's not skilled in the brawl. He was useless in episode 3 during with the assault team when they were trying to bring Andor and Rael in. But I wonder if he white knights her and actually saves her kind of thing and then gets brought more closely into the ISB as a reward for that.
Yeah.
We'll see. But as it stands, she's basically like, restraining order in effect. You need to stay away for less than 12 parsecs. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like that needs to be a thing. But he ain't giving up. There's no way. He's Norman Bates. Fact. Next scene in. This is where we get the next little bit of ISB stuff where we know the rebellion's probably in a little bit more trouble because they're basically setting up. This is the prelude to them setting up a trap. Is the assistant lets them know that we took somebody into custody who was in possession of one of the missing pieces of gear.
Yeah, rebel pilot that has one of the missing things, and she's like, "Oh, get Dr. Such and Such out there right now." And he's like, "I already sent him. Do you want to be out there?" And she's like, "Yes." And then that's when he's like, and she's like, "Thank you." And he kind of walks out, and she takes instead of her taking her hat off, thinking, "Be fine. It's all coming together."
Yeah. Now, they in the actual dialogue, I was trying to roll it back. The pilot that they took into custody, and we'll find that out later, would have been the pilot working for the group that Luth and Rael wanted Saw Gerrera to meet, because they mentioned him by name. Krieger, I think, is the leader's name. Yeah. So they have him in custody, and they know because he's already confessed. I think I don't think they said it yet, but we'll get to that one. I guess we'll get to that when we get there.
They said that they found they found the stolen thing on him, and he's a rebel pilot. That's all they said at the time.
But they say more about what he says at some point, because that's how you know basically there's a trap coming.
Conference
room, right. Right. Yep. Okay. So we'll put a pin in that until we get there. Next scene up. Yeah, this is a good one too. It's Mon Mothma with Tay Koloma, where basically he's like, "Listen, this is getting kind of tough working with this kind of money. We're talking about 400,000. We're good for now as long as they don't scan accounts." And she's like, "We need these
provision. They're going to scan our accounts."
It's right. It's not if, it's when. This is where it gets kind of cool, and again, it gets kind of spy thriller, because his solution here is, well, you're going to need a loan to put 400,000 back on the book, so it doesn't look like you took out a massive deduction to do some gangster shit or violate tax law, whatever it is you did. But he wants to bring in what they allude to as being basically organized crime. And the guy that he wants her to work with wants to like meet with her at the embassy and this, that, and the other thing. And this is where we see that she's still kind of one foot in both worlds, where she's with the rebellion, but she still thinks that she's a private citizen, that she can back off. Yeah. Because she's like, "Oh, well, what will the thug think if I work with him?" And Coloma's like, "Dude, he's going to think you're like every other rich person. Like, you just want to keep what's yours. This is what he does." Yeah. He launders cash. He gives out loans, for 40 points of interest and shit like that. But I thought this was a good conversation, because this guy here, like, he's not overselling it. He's kind of sitting. He's kind of just letting it, I can keep looking for options, but, clock's ticking, shit like that. And she just got this concerned, ghastly kind of knows she's in over her head kind of expression going on.
Yeah.
But I thought this was pretty good here. It's just actors turning in good understated performances that aren't screaming and yelling and acting body language out of control for emphasis and shit. And it's subdued, and I like it. You know what I mean? Like, it's quiet. It works. Like, they don't have to overexert to make their points. Yeah. It's shit I like. And it's just a quiet conversation, but it works. So I think where do they leave that scene there? Oh, that's it. He's just kind of like, all right, well, call him in, I think. Or actually, I don't think I'm watching I don't know, she doesn't decide. I think they kind of leave it unspoken. Yeah. Whether or not she agrees. Okay. So here's your ISB boardroom meeting here. They're talking about the pilot they brought in. And this is where we understand the connection, that how Mira is going to kind of link up with setting she's not connection. She's she's going to be able to set the trap for whatever Luth and Rael does next, because he knows that pilot's boss is setting up a job on Spellhouse at a strike at a naval yard or whatever it is.
Power station.
And go. Power station, that's what it was, I'm sorry. So they basically, the short of the scene is they're going to come up with a way to like scrap the plane, pilot's body in the cockpit kind of thing. That way, when they come to claim the wreckage, they're going to tow it in and we'll be able to trace it back to... Is that what's going on there, more or less? Did I read that wrong?
No, they were trying to have the guy where he like died of something in the ship. They tow it in, so they don't know that he was intercepted by the Empire and interrogated.
Oh, right.
So they could set a trap for him at the power station.
Right. Because they know they're going. They know when. Because I think he gave up the info. That's right. They were just trying to make it look like there was no chance they knew. That's right.
Yeah.
So the Imperials are on their way to that. We're coming up on the last leg, and this whole segment right here is good. We're back on Narkina 5. We're with the work team. They're going about their business. Olaf's definitely struggling at this point. They call for the on-program warning because I think they're bringing in they're bringing in somebody, they're doing a count, they're doing something, but Olaf can't go on program and put his hands up.
Yeah.
So they basically got to cover. They stand around him and cover up.
Yeah,
that way
like,
he
cover
can't
him.
be seen while they're holding him up, basically, so he can't fall.
Mm-hmm.
And it's getting ugly. They get him through the shift, and they're basically carrying him back through that processing line when we get the final setup for the final scene. So I'll let you take it away and walk us through the rest.
Yeah, they send off for the doctor to show up.
Yep.
And then the
doctor, and then point out the doctor's a medic, an inmate medic, like from the infirmary, and not
an
like,
Imperial.
fully geared up and shit. Right, not an Imperial.
And so they get him out there, and the medic starts working on him, and there's a little dialogue going back and forth about trying to find out about the rumor. And because the medic travels all floors, he knows what's happening. And he was like, a guy who got out was back on the floor on level 2. They found out, so they sterilized the whole floor. And that's when Tino was like, so even if I finish all my shifts, I'm going to come right back into this. They're not letting us out.
Yep.
And then they're like, do something for him. He has to make it because, that was one of the big things. It was like, because he wants everyone to get out. He believes playing by the rules.
Right, that's him. Them trying to save him happened before that realization.
Before that realization happened,
Right.
And he's like, there's
right.
nothing
The
I can
EMT was
do.
like, I can't fucking help him. Right.
Yeah,
he had a stroke.
He had a
and he wasn't
massive
lying.
stroke.
Like, he checked him out. Yeah, he's boned.
Yeah, he's like, all I could do is this, and he just pretty much ends his suffering.
Pretty much euthanize him, right?
Yeah.
The medic side, I like the medic in this scene. Basically, he's good too. He doesn't just offer up the info straight away when Andor's asking him. He just keeps saying, you're going to keep your men in line. And then Serkis is like, well, what's that supposed to fucking mean? And then they ask him again, dude, what happened on 2? And the medic very cleverly asks for something reasonable that he would ask for in this moment, where he calls down to the guard that's in attendance. Hey, I need a body bag and a bag and a trolley, right? And so the guard finally, fucks off to go get the shit that he already called in for. And that's when he told them, he said, yeah, they let a guy out. They were back. He was back in population like the next day. So everybody knows that everything here is a lie, that there is no getting out, that like you're fucked here. The best that's going to happen to you is you get euthanized by the EMT so you don't feel it. Yeah. You know what I mean? And that was the epic part of the episode is the guard orders everybody else out as the bag and the trolley are coming up.
Yeah, he's
and they're walking out.
They're doing something. He's like, "What are you guys talking about?" He's like, "Get on your feet." And then he came over and he's like, "On order." And so they come up and he's like, "You two out now." And then
I like how they. Let me do it because I really like how they frame it. So Serkis is walking out first, so you see him front. He's on program. He's got this dead ass look on his face, and all Andor can see is the back of his head. So he doesn't know. He can't see him. They haven't exchanged any words, and the last exchange of the episode is Andor asking again, how many guards on each level? And doesn't fucking Andy Serkis Kino be like, never more than 12? And then boom, cut to credits. That was probably one of the best endings to an episode the series has had. It was such like a mic drop kind of thing where you're like, all right, so now the guy that knows some things that we can use is on board because he knows this is all a scam. Yeah. Yep. So I thought this might be. I'd have to go back and review them all because in a slower episode like this that isn't like Game of Thrones or anything, it's tough to pick favorites. But this one's up there with me just because, again, we see the transition of so many characters move along logical paths that they might have been on, that they had to make choices to be on. Andy Serkis didn't have to say, there's 12. He could have just said, shut your fucking mouth. We still don't know. Fuck the EMT. He could be lying. Who knows? Like, he could just be working for them, but he didn't, so I kind of dig that. So, dude, give me some overall thoughts and a score, because we made really good time on this one for as good as it was.
Yeah, we, once again, we're moving into the setup part. We did definitely see it, especially in like I said, the last 10 minutes of this episode. You see that the Empire's moving forward with a trap that can bring Rael to the light, or they call him access to the light, so they know who he is and starting, which might be the start of Mon Mothma being exposed as well, and a couple other players that they have. And then we have the jailbreak starting. The first true beginning of the jailbreak. Like, we had the little sawing of the pipe, and people talking,
Yep.
but we have the first, you have the guy who knows stuff on your side now.
Yeah.
You got caretaker.
Yeah, yeah, you're right. Yeah, but every prison movie needs that guy. So they're playing with tropes that work because they're being handled properly, and it doesn't come across as forced or contrived and or just I saw this in this movie, so I'm just gonna write it in here. This shit just kind of works. Score overall?
Score overall, I'm going 4.3 because
Yeah, that's what I figured. You go a little higher.
Way things are moving, I'm enjoying it. And this is Star Wars without being Star Wars, which is amazing.
Yeah, definitely. I think final thoughts from me, dude. I'm a big fan of when they're able to do creative things that I can't predict. Every now and then, if you've watched enough stuff, you can kind of figure out general patterns and things, and you can kind of read into where the safe way to not necessarily that it's lazy or predictable, but you just understand the safe paths that the writers can go down. The reveal here that no one gets out was solid, because I didn't think at this point the Empire, if there's still a Senate at this point, it means the Empire isn't all powerful yet. So you would think that a facility like this, if you had a work sentence kind of thing, that it's on the up and up as far as things could go. You do your 5 years, you get out in 5 or 3 with good behavior and productivity or whatever, however they want to frame it up. But to have this next level, no, the twist here is we had to nuke a whole room because everybody else figured out and was ready to riot that a guy's term was up. We know he was up, but we fucked up somehow, because that's what would happen.
Back on the same floor. I think that's
that's what I mean. I meant in world. There was a clerical error. We fucked up, and we put King Z, back on the block, and people were like, "Dude, how are you back here?" You know what I mean? But that's exactly what happened. Bureaucracy would screw up. Somebody would type a 0 instead of a 1, and instead of you getting on a transport out, you get sent back down to the block. So it's so it makes it's creative, because I'm okay, so this is how you convince other people to kind of join up to the thing, because we know he already has help. I mean, we know the one dude that was kind of watching him when they were bringing in the new guy, so there's at least one dude. I'm sure there's other guys in there that are part of that cadre of guys that want to break. I think the interesting bit's going to be how do they get out? What transport do you steal to get out? I mean, they're in the middle of the fucking Pacific Ocean on Narkina 5 or whatever, wherever they are, you know what I mean, or whatever planet it's on. I think the name of the base is Narkina 5, I think. I don't know. But you know what I mean? It's, how else can you get out of this kind of situation? It's not as easy as you jailbreak and there's a pickup truck outside the gate and you go. You're in the literal middle of nowhere and can only fly out. So, but we know he's a pilot, though. So, I mean, there's that.
Yeah.
So, we know he could probably go that route. But no, for me, I definitely like Andy Serkis' line the most, where he's kind of nope, just doing my time. I'm pit bossing this shit. Going to do my shifts. We're going to get out. But very gradually, he starts to get concerned. Olaf goes down. He was obviously very fond of him. He's hold his head. He was holding his hand when he died. He was fucking help him. That's my guy. He says he's only got 17 left. He was vested in getting his guy out. You know what I mean? Which is cool. Which is nice. You like to see that kind of shit in your characters. So I think for Serkis, I think I might have to go. I don't remember what my ratings were for the other episodes, guy. We'll get better about keeping track of that shit in future shows. Did all 4.5 just for that reveal. All 4.5 to the performance of Andy Serkis. The interrogation stuff was that with Bix at the beginning with Deidre Miro. We're so far past that now. That was chilling. The performance she turned in, that was fucking amazing. Extra points for her again, talking to Karn out there at ISB, bro, I will hang you. I will put you in a cage in the Outer Rim. I'm not here to date you. This isn't GalaxyMatch.com. Piss off, be gone. This schoolboy fantasy that you're having. You're never going to be in the ISB or whatever you think is going to happen. So, I mean, I was with that altogether. I'm glad there's only a few left, because I hate when things overstay their welcome.
Yeah. As
much as I complain about the Marvel shows being only 6 episodes or 8, when things are well written, like Game of Thrones and like this, I think 10 to 12 is very reasonable for the 45-minute kind of. That's the other thing we haven't talked about with these episodes. These aren't running short like fucking Kenobi and Boba Fett, and they're holding attention. They're working. So I mean, I'm down with that. But this last 3 piece of episodes should be interesting, because I think it's going to be real quick he's going to be what do they have left to do? Like, he's going to make the escape. He's going to go back to Ferrix because he's going to check in on Marva. I'm guessing she dies at some point, and that's probably one of the things that convinces him to, F the Empire kind of thing. I don't know. You get some broad predictions, and we'll wrap up.
All right,
like, what do you think?
Predictions. So we have the jailbreak, of course.
Yep, obviously that's a given.
Either one or two of the other rebel conspirators will be outed, and we're going to see.
Okay,
the
that makes sense.
We might not actually see Luthen Rael die, but we will definitely see him have to drop his shop and run.
Okay, that's cool. I think if on that note, I think that the likely thing to happen is probably something to Cinta on Ferrix, because she's just so close to, like, if she's basically like a block over from the hotel or whatever. I mean, she's close by. I think her cover will be blown somehow. Maybe that'll be a thing that pushes Vel into an overreaction that gets her out, and I'm just kind of spitballing some things. That'd be kind of cool. I'd really like to see by the end Marva do something very freedom fightery, if that's going to be her end, like if she detonates a bomb in the tunnel or something and ends up sacrificing herself to do it. Like, that'd be a dope way to go for like that kind of character, you know what I mean? Especially if she says her husband's name. I love that cliched, like, going out hero death shit, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
like, if she doesn't have to say this one's for Clem. Yeah, right. I love the Blaze. She doesn't have to say anything like verbatim, like this one's for Clem. Like, she could just like think about it and have like a flash real quick or something, and I'd be okay with that. I'd like to see Mon Mothma. I mean, we're gonna get the Mon Mothma organized crime guy. That has to happen. There's no way they sit on that until season 2. I bet we get that meet up. Yeah. And maybe he screws her, or like he screws the husband, or the husband screws him, and there's some convoluted shit that has her almost outed, but maybe they have to silence the husband. That could be that's some Rogue One shit. Yeah. Where like she has to give the authorization to kill the husband because he's gonna brown shirt her and blab to ISB. I don't know. That could be something kind of fucked up. But that's it for us, guys. I think I'm going with the 4.3. And King Z, what did you give it?
4.5.
You're in that 4 zone again? Oh, you gave the 4.5. That's right. All right, so I'll go 4.5 also. I'm right there with it. It's probably, like I said, one of my favorites. So, guys, comment on this episode if you enjoyed it. We definitely did. We're digging the show. 3 episodes to go. Home stretch coming up.
If you
sub to the channel if you like.
Go ahead and go watch it. Get it the viewership. We already know it's greenlit for a second season, so we're not fighting for a second season. We're just saying this is Star Wars done right. When everyone was so excited about Mandalorian and Jon Favreau fits in it, this is more of, I would say, his influence on Star Wars and less of Book of Boba Fett, less of Kenobi, and less of the sequel trilogy.
Yeah, definitely. And if we just tie that back into like just getting their viewership up, like I said in the previous episode we just did with like the Black Adam connection, like, guys, if they're course correcting and it's like it's not the shit that we typically bitch and complain about in terms of quality, not even in terms of politics, just in terms of quality and like story process and through lines and setup and payoff and character development, like this show has those things. We get it. It's not a thrill a minute stunt reel of dogfights and saber battles and orchestral scores. It's like gymnastics are being done with like in zero gravity and shit like that. It's not that kind of show. I get that. I hear that. It's not Game of Thrones. There's not like gruesome political backstabbery going on, but they have some fairly compelling characters and the performances that are actually in show. Like we both said, we each have our favorites of who's done performances. Everybody's been great across the board. There's no cartoon characters here. There's no one-dimensional villains. The villains on the show are great. Mira's great. Karn's a great psycho. Like, I'm just codenaming him Norman Bates for like the last 3 episodes. I think if anything here, I think it's sad to say before we go, maybe I'll just get your opinion on this before we bounce. Dude, is Andor the least interesting person here? Like, in terms of just performances by the star?
It's more like the people in Andor's life is what's really building this whole story.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like, he's just kind of there. Like, what's his most compelling scene that he's done so far? Like, when did he turn in the emotional shit yet? You know what I mean? Like, I'm kind of waiting for it. Like, he's got to have that moment, you'd think. I mean, is it going to be when like the death of somebody happens and he commits to the rebellion? I mean, that's kind of a little too late for the lead to kind of engage me wholeheartedly like that. He's lucky everybody else is turning it in.
The only thing he really had was when he said his name was Clem on the on the op. And other than that, he's still.
But that was more of a punch for us. That's what I mean. Like, that was more of a punch for us when we made that realization. Like, what element of Diego Luna's performance has been great. I mean, the stuff when he was with Vel's team on the planet was kind of meh. About the fear talk about you'll sleep when he was talking to the young guy, like you'll sleep when the operation's over. Like, yeah, you'd be, or when he said, are you afraid? And Andor says, of course I'm fucking afraid. You'd be crazy not to. I mean, that was okay, but that's more like snappy dialogue. There wasn't a whole lot of heartfelt stuff there. I mean, I'm getting more of that with like Bix and Brasso.
Isn't completely in yet either.
Okay, that's fair.
He's been operating.
That's fair.
You know, it's about me. Marvra's the only thing that he's really been operating for, but it's all about me.
But I mean, even in their scenes, like where he's legitimately trying to take care of her, where he's like, we're gonna get the money, we're gonna go. That's all very practical. You know what I mean? Like there's just maybe there's something missing yet, like you said. Like maybe there's more to come for that. But like I was saying, like there are other characters just have standout high points of what they've brought to the table, like Rael, like Miro, like Saw Gerrera. They're memorable. They could swap you in for Diego Luna on the show. It'd be the same show for me. You know what I mean? Like there's nothing exceptional about it yet.
And that's the thing about
you got anything else?
A thing about a show like this is that sometimes the lead doesn't have to really carry the show. Everybody else carries the show. True. And there's there. As if you have a good dance partner, your partner can carry you through wrestling. You have a ring, like The Rock made everyone look better who was in the ring with him.
It's true. So you're 100%. You're right on that. That's a great point to wrap up the show, guys. So like I said a minute ago, we appreciate it, guys. Drop your likes and comments if you like the show, if you want more Andor and other Star Wars coverage. I don't know what we're going to cover after this one. We had talked about maybe doing some horror movie stuff, but we'll get you more information on that as it comes. We have socials that are out there at warriorkingproductions.com.
warriorkingproductions.com.
Nailed it. And then everything and then everything on my end is of course at Winter Wolf's Den, and you guys can check us out there. Until next time, we'll see you guys later.